You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
The wheel is turning and you can't slow down. You can't let go and you can't hold on. You can't go back.
After a week absence, the panel is back. It's November 19th, Thanksgiving week. Happy Thanksgiving.
Awesome.
We had some cool news. Mike's a grandfather now.
Wow. Yes, sweet Emmeline has arrived.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
To Tori and David
In the
across
UK.
the pond.
And,
Yep.
my wife is headed over. She'll be over there for 5 weeks. She's going to miss Thanksgiving, and everything's good. So
Good.
thank you very much.
Good. Awesome news. Awesome news. Obviously, the news doesn't stop in the NBA. We take a week off, and we got trades and franchises blowing up and crazy stuff going on. So we got lots to talk to. And
Lots to watch. And the college game is rolling.
Yes, college has kicked in, and we'll touch on all of it. So spin away.
The easiest spin of the day, the first one.
I got new shoes. Put them on the table.
Sweet.
All right, the
Timberwolves.
Timberwolves. This is probably the least exciting segment on the entire wheel. They finally gave in to the obvious malfunction happening in their organization with Jimmy Butler there. Shipped him off. The official deal was Jimmy Butler for Dario Saric, Robert Covington, and a second-round pick. I believe that there was another player that was irrelevant. Patton also went with Butler.
Yeah.
We'll see
He hasn't played yet.
Yeah, we'll see if he
This
can
is
get
the second
healthy.
year and he hasn't played yet.
Yeah, we could obviously
Potential.
that was part of the first Jimmy Butler deal, the Patton selection at 16 overall. So far he's been a bust, but maybe when he gets healthy he'll be able to contribute in Philly. So obviously just focus on the Timberwolves side of things. They're 2-1 since the new acquisitions have arrived in classic Tibbs fashion. Covington came in. He's playing close to 40 minutes a game in those 3 games.
Yeah, he's not playing close to 40.
He's playing.
He's playing mid-30s and all.
Played 42 in one game.
Yeah,
He
well,
did?
I'm saying
The
he's playing,
first game, actually.
overall, he's playing close to 40.
Yeah.
Close to 40. I stand by close to 40. And then Dario isn't playing it because he's coming off the bench. But in the most recent game where Dario played the best, he had 4 threes and in the teens of points. He actually outplayed in terms of minutes. He outplayed Taj Gibson. So it'll be interesting little battle there to watch because it's obvious that Dario is a more gifted and more promising player and would fit better around Karl Towns than Taj Gibson. But obviously Taj has an attraction, a mutual attraction with Tibbs. So we'll see if he can break that mold. What have you seen from this team since Jimmy left?
It is typically Tibbs, and I'm not that down on the typically Tibbs, but I think now I see a solid 7 there on that team.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you've added a player in Rose.
Yes.
So Rose is now a player.
He's played great so far this season.
You gotta
Surprisingly.
say it. You got to say
absolutely.
it. We're into it long enough now. It looks like he's going to have a good season unless something goes south with his knees. But that rotation is not bad. And I think that with adding Saric and Covington into that mix, Covington's played well.
Yes,
Saric
yes.
has played
Covington's
well.
great.
And it adds 2 guys, and they drop 1. I think it really improves that team. The other thing I see with it is that the light bulb has got to go off for Wiggins and Towns
Yes,
because now they're seeing 2 more guys come in that work equally as hard as Butler
Yes.
and play the game the same way that Butler plays. They've got to see that this is how you're supposed to play. Before Butler, it was their judgment of this is how you play. It's my team. This is how I play. They don't really have a role model that really shows them how. They've seen enough now. If they don't play hard now, they're never going to play hard. But I like what I've seen in Minnesota so far.
I agree. I also like what I'm seeing. Their rotation makes more sense. I don't know if the team is.
And I like Saric off the bench.
I don't know if their team is better. I mean, they're better than a team because of the dysfunction that was
They are
there.
better.
But just in terms of talent, they're less talented. But I think that they're going to be more successful than they would have been with the Butler situation
I think
looming
they're
and
equally
hanging over
talented,
them.
Jay. I think with Covington and
it's
Saric,
a talent.
you take Butler away and you put Covington and Saric in there. I think as a team, I think they've got as much talent as they had before.
I think they're definitely not as talented. Losing a superstar and a clutch scorer, but these guys are
who was
definitely
taking games off, who was
these are
creating all the
Thibodeau guys.
chemistry
Yes.
problems.
The fact that they're so uber aggressive and Covington is such a Thibodeau guy. You can tell he already loves him. Playing defense, he's a 3-and-D guy. He's real scrappy. But you can tell that they actually enjoy being out there right now. Karl Anthony Towns has got a lot of weight off of his shoulders. He's smiling. He's having fun. So they might not be a playoff team without Butler, but
I don't see why not.
I
in the
don't-
West right now.
I don't-
mean, it's hard to pick
It
the
is.
good teams in the West
That's
right
the
now.
thing. It's right now. I mean, just based off of their roster and based off of what you'd expect moving forward, it's not crazy to say that they wouldn't make it. But at the same time, when you're looking at these teams, I wouldn't put them in, but like I wouldn't be shocked if they did. And I mean, the 3 games since the trade have been all against playoff caliber teams.
Yep.
They got wins against New Orleans. They got a win against Portland.
Good win against Portland.
And they had a good game against Memphis that they ended up losing down the stretch because they couldn't maintain staying in the game in the fourth quarter. I think they ended up losing around 10 points. But I think that with Butler gone, Towns is less in his own head, and he's being back to being more of the player who can assert himself in whatever manner he needs to assert himself. And he's offensively dominant, and clearly with Butler there was some type of mental block where Butler was on him in a way where he couldn't perform. Mm-hmm. And now that's gone, and we're seeing more of the Towns that's going to get 25 and 18 or whatever and be a crazy offensive powerhouse, and we're seeing that again. But I think that was kind of expected, that Towns was that player, and it was just laying dormant with Butler there. But the thing that I find most interesting, because I'm not surprised with Covington being an elite defender. He was all-NBA defender last year, and with being an intriguing shot maker. I've always known him as that player, and I think that Dario Saric makes sense as a 6th or a 7th man who can come off the bench and be a scoring punch that can stretch the floor. I think the person that is the most interesting case is Andrew Wiggins, and I think that through the 3 games since he's been gone, I've seen an extended amount of effort that wasn't there before. And in the beginning of the season, we touched on how there were signs of that there, and how maybe Butler was rubbing off him in a good way, where in Towns it wasn't, it was the opposite. And I think we're continuing to see that, and I like this growth from Wiggins. He had one bad game. I think he only had like 15 points on poor efficiency, but the other 2 games he's taking higher efficient shots, he's taking less shots, his offense is coming in the flow of the team offense, and defensively he's trying harder. And it's resulting, because of his athleticism and his length, it's resulting in steals and blocks and in deflections. And I really like what I'm seeing out of him. It'll be interesting to see if it's just a blip with his effort or if it's something that he can maintain through a long season. I think we can.
All right.
Go Wolves. Looks like Thibodeau has been
I like
saved.
looks
like Tibbs has been
they're
saved.
much more
I
watchable.
like Covington. I got him on my team.
They're much more watchable.
Got him on
Much
my
more
fantasy
watchable.
squad.
Okay,
Now this is going to be the worst topic. This is like
the worst topic. It's the most.
I think Scal said it good the other night. He said, "There's 29 teams in the NBA, and there's one team that you don't even talk about. You just don't even pay attention to them."
A couple weeks ago, we talked about potential trades for
we did.
if this team was willing to break it up. If they were willing to break it up, we have information today from Woj that every single player on the roster is on the trading block. So they're openly listening to trade offers. I asked you guys to.
But you don't want anybody on that team.
Why
except
didn't
for
they just trade? Why didn't they just fire the coach?
Well, they
Instead of
should. They
blowing
should.
up the entire
They should-
roster.
they should do both.
I don't see that.
They
I
stood by
I still see there's Wall's the one that's going to go.
So I think the Wall is the one that's go, but because of his large contract, I think
Unbelievable.
he is probably the
What's
least
that
tradable.
15% kicker? What is that?
It's a 15% trade kicker. It was a magnificent
Wow.
negotiation from Rich Paul.
Yeah.
Great agent.
He gets an extra
Great agent work.
15% when he gets traded if he get. Wow.
Yeah, well, he can waive it and he can decrease
Yeah,
it down to
that's true,
5% if he feels so inclined. But I doubt he'll do that.
There's a
But-
few enormous contracts on that team.
Yeah, sure.
So
Including Otto.
Otto Porter and Beal are obviously more tradable than John Wall.
I don't think so.
If the Wizards were smart, I think they would hold on to Bradley Beal.
Absolutely. He's 3 years younger, right?
Right, but it all depends on what they can get back for the other guys. I think they should try to accrue expiring contracts, as many picks as possible, and maybe some swings at a young player.
Really?
If you look back across, I think that they should not worry about playoffs right now in contending this year. I think they should try to manufacture a stronger culture. And if they're keeping Beal, they should focus on Beal and making him happy and being able to motivate the potential of acquiring a free agent in the future and focusing on the cultivation of young talent. Right now, they're in the complete wasteland and in the morass of they don't know what they are. They're not contending for playoffs at all, even though that they have the talent that they should. I think that they should trade Otto and Wall. It's just going to be interesting to see where the offers will come from for those guys.
It'd be nice to get rid of Dwight Howard. I don't know what kind of contract they got with him, but I can't. I mean, you're the capologist in this group, but won't they have to take somebody else's contract to do this?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying expiring deals. They should take expiring deals.
I think they're going to go for a star.
Yeah?
Yeah,
but
I think there's a bunch of them out there that are on the block.
I think that you need to understand that.
Wall will attract a star.
No, I think you need to understand in trade negotiations right now, John Wall does not warrant the return of a star. He warrants the return of a young player, a pick, and a bad contract in return because his contract is commonly agreed upon to be one of the worst contracts in the league.
Well, that's why they're trying to package Oubre or somebody else so that they can
He's going to be making $50 million in 3 years.
But there's a lot of players in the league that are making those kind of contracts.
No, there's not. There's only 4. There's 4 of them.
Well, why wouldn't Detroit give up Drummond for him?
I think that because Drummond is younger, Drummond's on a better contract, and they just dealt with the devil to get one of those awful arbitrage contracts in Blake Griffin. I think that you have a point that a team like Detroit that is desperate and wants to make a punch is the team that you need to be looking for John Wall. I think you could look at teams. I mean, we just talked about a team that maybe has solved their chemistry issues, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Timberwolves threw their hat in the John Wall ring. You have to look at teams that need a point guard desperately. That
so
are
you got,
teams.
And Phoenix has got plenty of guys to throw in there.
Phoenix and Orlando.
Orlando, they got some young players,
and then you got to think maybe there's some combination of assets that the Lakers could throw their hat in the ring.
We could have a wall ball deal.
A wall ball deal, but I think that Lonzo Ball might be on the cusp out of the range of what John Wall will garnish in a trade-up package right now. I do.
You don't think they can get Lonzo? I think they can get Lonzo Ball and somebody from the Lakers for him.
I don't think I think it would have to be Lonzo Ball and then a couple bad contracts like KCP and other bad contracts.
Yeah, I think they would probably like KCP because he's a shooter.
Yeah, I mean that is one of the deals that I'm potentially talking about. But I think that Phoenix is the most likely team to take a swing at Wall because I think that their management is still under question for its legitimacy. They have James Jones in the front office. James Jones has a good relationship with Rich Paul.
And they got guys to trade.
And they have assets that right now they're not fond of. Josh Jackson has been really bad this year. He's been really bad, but he still has value, and he's still a really, really young player that has a lot of promise.
TJ Warren's got value.
TJ Warren, my trade is Josh Jackson, TJ Warren, in a first-round pick with some protection. That's my deal.
That's not bad.
That's my deal, and I think that would make sense for them, and it would free up some money. Maybe you would need to fill the cap with a bench player here and there, but I think it's something like that they should look for.
I think New Orleans will be in the game.
Absolutely.
Because I think New Orleans, they'd like to get back to where that team would be dynamite right now with a healthy Rondo, I still think. And so you put Wall in as possible, but why not Mirotic and each one more?
Well, they offered Mirotic in a first for Jimmy Butler, and I think that they also would be willing to be.
The Pelicans have actually been in the mix for to get Otto Porter.
Yes.
But the Wizards are asking for Julius Randle in return.
It's too much.
And that's partly because Otto Porter's contract is an albatross as well. It's 4 years, $108 million or something.
And we got Anthony Davis now actually stating that there's a lot on his shoulders, and I'm being asked to do a lot here. I'm the only superstar.
I mean,
those are seeds.
New Orleans is doing a good job at being active in trade discussions. It's just unfortunate because outside of Drew Holiday, Anthony Davis, and Julius Randle, they don't really have many pieces. They're doing the best they can, and Mirotic in a first is kind of the best offer they can give. I mean, maybe if a player like Beal, if they wanted to target Beal, maybe they could do multiple first-round picks, Mirotic and Randle. Maybe that's a type of package that could garner a Beal in return, but I don't think that they're going to be willing to expand the deal that much for an Otto or even a John Wall.
So talking Beal, we said it before, I don't see the chemistry with Wall and LeBron in LA. I don't see that working.
Yeah.
I see Beal working tremendously in the Lakers. I mean, my God, would that be a match right there?
The Lakers are my Beal destination.
Yeah, that would be a nice trade.
I think
and good for Beal too, and I like Beal a lot. I'd like to see him.
I have no clue how likely they are to trade Beal. I think if I was the Washington Wizards, they said that Beal is available. They said the whole team's available. But if I were them, I would be trying my hardest to keep onto him because, as we say, he's the only player with true promise and not a miserable contract out of the tradable pieces that they have. But at the same time, because of those facts, he does get the most return in a deal. So I think if they sent him to L.A., they could get
maybe they
could get three of the. I think they could get Ingram, Lonzo, and
Ingram and Ball for Beal.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the type of deal that they could look for. But again, if I was the Wizards, I don't know if I would necessarily want to do that. That would be a deal that I would result in. I think there'll be a last resort only if I surveyed the whole mass of the NBA, and I couldn't find a package for John Wall, and I couldn't find a package for Otto Porter. I think that's the only way I'm trading Bradley Beal is if no one will take Otto and John Wall. And ultimately, I think that Otto and John Wall will be able to be shed off on someone else.
I'd take Beal on the Celtics.
Yes, I would too. Who would you trade for him?
One of the kids, maybe.
Yeah.
Jalen.
And what's interesting is
Terry Rozier.
when talking about that people said, well, aren't the Celtics kind of holding tight with their assets in case Anthony Davis becomes available? But if we do deal for Beal, hypothetically, you could just flip Beal for Anthony Davis. And, you know, so
Well, we'll wait till we get to the Celtics, but I would have a lot of thoughts on that, but I'll hold
If not,
them.
you got a great shooter.
We can. Wizards need to blow it up. They need to fire Brooks, and they need to trade two of those main
They played
three.
well last year without Wall. They can play well again this year without Wall.
They need to
but
give-
Howard is the problem.
They need to give Satoransky some more minutes. Howard is not
I
relevant,
did say that.
relevant
Wow.
enough.
Something is very broken in that.
Josh Richardson just got fined
Hey,
we'll
25
do the
grand.
Celtics.
for
Speaking of
throwing his-
Celtics,
Wow, this could take the rest of the show.
So the Boston Celtics are off to a rocky beginning of their season. We are very average, 9-7. We have some strong wins and some questionable losses. Recently, we lost 2 times to the Utah Jazz, one at home, one in their home court. We had a fantastic overtime win against Toronto in one of the best games
was
of
at
the
that
year.
game?
Sloan was
You
there.
were awesome.
Yep.
That was a great game.
And
Great game.
we had a good unifying and just like confidence boosting win against Chicago since we last met. But we also had losses to Portland and here and there. Luckily for us, our schedule lightens up in the
sure
next 20
does.
in the next 20 games.
Oh, my goodness.
We have 9 out of the next 14 games are against lottery teams.
Yep.
So hopefully we should really be able to just pad up our record overall.
Yep.
The team is still the best defensive team in the league.
But
and
that's I almost look like that at like Jackie Bradley. The metrics not showing that he's a good center. But I can't see the metrics. I think it's based on the pace of the game right now, and the Celtics aren't playing at the same pace that everybody else is. So everybody else's defense is skewed because there's so many points being scored, but there's not as many points being scored in the Celtics games. They're not the best defensive team in the league. But
I think there's a lot of there's a lot of ways that you can look at the Celtics that they do read out as the best defensive team.
Okay.
We are limiting transition opportunities for the other team. We're limiting
defend the
fast
three
break.
real well.
We're defending the 3 great. We're defending around the rim surprisingly well. We're defensive rebounding well. I think that
But we get abused by I mean, what's going to happen tonight with Kemba Walker? We're getting abused by guys out there.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I mean, Portland abuses, Utah abuses, Denver abuses.
We're susceptible to hot and streaky shooters, but
I
I
guess.
think we have the framework to shut those guys down. I mean, we saw Zach LaVine, who's averaging 28 points a game. We held him to his lowest scoring total of the season. He only scored 11 against us.
That's Chicago.
I know it is, but you need to. I do think the defense reigns true, and whether you or not you think we're the best defensive team, maybe we're not, but we have to say you're a top 4, top 5 defensive team.
I think
in
we've
the
got a
league.
great defensive core.
Yes.
And I think Kyrie Irving has really stepped it up on defense.
looks great
and I saw
defensively.
that in person. I was like, look at him, like really
Hustle.
getting after it. He's moving his legs.
Yeah.
He's doing all the right things. I think Gordon Hayward, even though he's a little slow offensively still, he's got no real burst, but he's really scrapping out there as well.
Yep.
He's trying to get loose balls. He's getting in the alley. He's grabbing steals, rebounds. I like what I see from Baines, but we don't see him that much.
He's the one that's lost a lot of minutes with Hayward.
What
coming
really
in.
bothers me is you're consistently seeing the kids getting beat, and Jalen and Jason should be the ones that have the most defensive energy, and I think they're so focused on their offensive game, and they're struggling offensively right now, that I think they're really in a funk. Well, Brown's missed 14 shots the past 2 games too.
Brown has, but I think Tatum shot fairly well.
Tatum-
There's a
they're both
dynamic.
struggling.
They're
There's a
forcing
dynamic
shots.
there that it's evolved, and what happened at the end of last year is that you had Hayward and Irving who were pulled out, and you had Brown and Tatum who were put in. Now, when you took that to this year, you've got guys that have become accustomed to be starters with other guys that are going to move them back out, and that dynamic just hasn't taken hold. They're trying to play them all at once, and I've been saying for a long time that the 3 wings is not the best option, and I don't know. I'm still trusting Brad completely. I'm still with him 100%, and I think it is going to evolve. I think that Gordon Hayward is going to progressively get better, and he needs to be the number 2 guy on that team. And that once he becomes the number 2 guy, and it's right now they still don't have a number 2 guy. I don't see Tatum consistently enough. I think Hayward has to become that guy. And what I see from Hayward right now is that he is, as a coach, you're trying to teach players that when they're pursuing an opportunity, that they're always looking shot and thinking pass. Hayward is looking pass and thinking shot all the time. He needs to be looking shot. I think his shot's looking a lot better. I think they're on top. I think it's just a matter of time before they start going in, and that might turn the corner on that team. I'm very disappointed in Jaylen Brown, and I think that and I was really up on him after the Portland and Chicago game when he started taking to the rim so strong. I thought that was, and I was actually saying I think he should be the starter, and we got too many good guys, and Tatum's the guy that we should let go. But I think Brown quit last game. I think he quit, and I think that's what Stevens is saying, and what he's saying in the locker room afterwards, and what he's hinting at with the change. And I'm very disappointed. And why did he quit? It's because the game before he didn't play down the stretch. And whether it affected his psyche or whatever, he didn't play in the overtime, he didn't play much in the fourth quarter. After he had played well the 2 games before, he was taken out of the lineup. When he came back in, just before he was going off the court for the first time in that next game, the game they just lost to Utah, you could see he stopped playing. He stopped playing randomly. He could see the sub coming in. He didn't play that defensive possession. And I'm going, what the hell's going on? I've never seen him play a defense like that where he just let the guy go. And then when the whistle blew, there's his sub on the bench, and he's coming out. And he didn't play the rest of the game either. There's a solution there somewhere, and I think Brad will find it. I think we got a problem with Tatum and Brown right now as an entity. I think one of them is going to go.
I think that one of them does not need to go. I agree with
well, we're going to get something for him. We can strengthen the team by playing one of them.
I think it's too early to ship one of them off. But I agree with some of the things that you're saying. Overall, I'm not concerned about the Celtics. They are doing things that are unnerving and that are frustrating, but most of it comes down to the things that the team are discussing. And I think Kyrie, and I think Brad, and I think Gordon, I think Al, I think these guys have a good grasp about what's wrong. And it is that this team isn't consistently motivated on every possession, especially both ends of the floor, and that they think that there's some Kyrie is saying leadership.
Yeah, where's that come from?
But Brad is saying toughness. I don't think it's either of those words. I think I don't really know how to. Maybe it's just. I think it's just consistency. I think it's just a consistency of effort.
What is Kyrie calling? He's calling for a 14-year veteran. They've got veterans. Hayward's a veteran. Horford's a veteran. Kyrie's a veteran.
I think he's really
Morris is a veteran. They have plenty of veteran leadership.
He was talking about just in the locker room, just a veteran presence to say,
like who?
This is what we will get through this season.
Yes.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes. He wants consistent effort on both ends, and that's the way that he's saying.
Do the team good to bring in a 14-year veteran.
No,
he's not exactly what he said.
He didn't say we need to bring in a new person. He just said, I wish we had, meaning like.
Yeah, but they have it.
Yes, I know. I'm aware. He's saying the same thing that Brad is saying. He's just saying it a different way. Okay. Right now, this team isn't trusting in the coaching staff. It isn't trusting in themselves, specifically with the young guys, specifically with Tatum, and very, very significantly with Jaylen Brown right now. They are struggling, and they're struggling offensively, and it's just because their shots aren't falling. They're relying too heavily on three-pointers and not enough on getting into the paint. We're last in the league in points in the paint. We don't drive. When we look best, it's when we're passing the ball in the perimeter.
And who's the second best driver on the team?
And we're touching the paint. And we're not doing that, and our offense too early is coming from the outside and not out and in. Yeah. And we're not being dynamic. It's all perimeter. And when we hit our shots, that's when we start off strong.
Toronto,
and that's when we win.
Toronto.
And that's when we play well. But the problem is, Jaylen and Tatum, obviously the two of these guys are huge staples of our offense, and they need to be playing well for this team to succeed. And when their shots aren't falling, which they aren't, both are shooting miserably. Jaylen is shooting putridly, way below their average mean and expected shot values, and they're hanging their heads after these shots. And it's affecting them defensively, and it's affecting them in transition, and they're not getting out on the fast break because they're bummed, and because they're not playing as good as they can.
And because they're doing it for themselves and not for the team. They're not trying to make plays to win games. They're trying to get themselves out of funks so that they can score.
I don't know.
And I think that's an ego issue.
I don't know if it's getting yourself out of the funk. I kind of think it goes back to I think it's more about trust. They don't trust the system. The system is moving the ball, and the system is getting the highest percentage shot. Most of the time it is going to be a 3, but it should be more frequently attacking the paint. And in games like against Toronto, I think Chicago, the first half of that was very good. I mean, it may be because Chicago's defense is very porous, but what have you. I think that's when we're seeing teams that are motivated, the team motivated to continue to trust the system. But when we struggle and Jalen is 1 for 8 from 3 against Utah in the first half, he is going to deviate from the system because he doesn't trust it because it's not working for him. And I don't think it's him trying to fix himself. I think when Tatum or Jalen or whoever it has you, when the team is struggling offensively because the system that is in place isn't carrying through because their shots aren't falling, they're trying to dig the team out because they know that maybe they have the ability to, but it's not working because it's breaking the system.
We haven't talked about another guy that's in the same mix. Would you guys agree that there's a minutes problem on that team, and that the way they're perceiving the minutes? I mean, Terry Rozier. I mean, he's getting so much. Aaron Baines gets much less minutes than a guy.
Terry is part of the same thing that Tatum and Jalen are in. He's part of that same concept.
It's a very difficult job. We talked about it before for Stevens to find that they're all frontline players. The only two that are accepting their role and plugging in are Morris and Smart. They're okay with what's happening.
And they're playing as good as they should.
And they've been two of the best plus-minus guys in the past 3 weeks.
Smart and Morris have been great this year.
But it looks like the change, like I said before, from Kyrie and Horford out and then back in, and these guys, frontline players and now backline players, that it's worked against them. And I don't. The way to sort that out, I know you don't want to do it, I don't, but it is trade a Dan. And eventually, I think you're going to see, and I would say, if I had to pick the starter on the team, I would go with Jaylen Brown, because I think I would go with Jaylen Brown over Tatum, and I would trade Tatum because you're going to get a whole lot more for Tatum, and I know this is way out there, and we're nowhere near that, and I've got patience with it too, but the way I saw Brown play against Portland and against Chicago, I thought he's driving it. He's the second best driver, and he is getting it to the rim, and he's fully capable of doing that. And I really believe he quit after to an extent that he quit because of his lack of minutes in the game before, whether it was his confidence or whatever, or he didn't feel rewarded for the way he was playing.
In the Toronto game, after he played really well in the Portland game, and he was largely responsible for Boston busting out into that huge lead against Chicago in the second quarter, because that was one of the best stretches that he's had offensively.
And you saw all the energy you wanted.
And then you're right, because the team played well, but he was struggling in that game, and he deserved to not be on. He deserved to not be on the floor. And Brad is always going to go with the best 5 based off of who's playing well that night. And that night, Jalen sat when there was 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and he didn't play in overtime. And I think he needs. They are, to a degree, coming to terms to that, and we see plenty of times Gordon Hayward is sitting on the bench in the final seconds of the game. We've seen even Kyrie, we're shifting in and out, and we're having prolonged absences with him on the bench because of it's a sub for defense, but then Brad trusts that lineup that he instilled initially, and then we see Kyrie on the bench, and they just need to be more comfortable with that.
The way Tommy puts it, and I think he's very accurate, is there's a morale challenge.
Yes,
I
agree with that.
There's a morale challenge on that team. And you're seeing right now Jaylen Brown's morale is not good.
It's low.
And so you got that challenge on that team. With Stevens and Ainge, I don't see any reason why there can't be good morale on that team, but I think they're front-loaded. We said it a little bit before with the lack of role players. You just dream of Anthony Davis in there.
Yeah, of course.
And I know you just dream of it. And I would give up Tatum, and I would give up Rozier if I could get Anthony Davis.
I think that the team is going to hopefully stick true to it for at least another 15, 20 games. I don't think they need to make any moves.
Like you said, the next 12 games, they could easily go 10-2.
Exactly. Our shooting splits right now are way, way below what their expected percentages should be. I think that not only Jalen, but Tatum and Terry and Al, all of their shooting percentages are going to rise. And the only player that you can say on the team who's shooting above they're punching above their weight is Mook, and it's just based off of a hot start, and he's been carrying us through recent stretches where the offense struggled. But that's okay. If he dips down, I would be very happy if it meant that other players were being lifted up.
Kyrie or Morris?
Morris
yeah.
is shooting above his.
Yeah, well,
I love that one shot against the Suns, pushing into overtime.
Yeah.
That three-pointer.
I think Morris is now a better shooter.
He's improved.
Well, he worked at it over the summer. He wanted to improve his range.
He's not a 47% three-point shooter.
He says that he put enough time in over the summer, and I'm seeing it, that he looks like a better shooter.
I think he could be a 40% three-point shooter,
was
but he's not 47. And that's what he is right now. He's like 47.
No, okay, but he could be 40.
He's also their
40,
leading
45.
rebounder,
Right.
even though he gets minimal minutes.
And
I'd like to see Aaron Baines play more too. I think Aaron Baines is a key ingredient to that team's
I think Aaron
intensity
Baines
and drive.
Aaron Baines' minutes should stay where they are. I like the
way.
contribution we're getting from Aaron Baines.
We played our best ball last year. That guy should be in there knocking heads.
I find myself frustrated with Aaron Baines a lot because he's
not getting enough minutes.
Very frequently, he is the one at the top of the key who is the end of a great passing sequence who ends up taking an open shot. And yes, it's the shot that he's supposed to take. And yes, he's hitting it at a higher clip than he has in previous years. But it's still not an
I
efficient
think he's
shot.
already been told
Shea,
not to shoot.
Shea,
He
how
had wide
open is
open.
Very open.
Unbelievably open.
He had wide
He's
open
so
looks
open. He's
against
staring right
Toronto.
at it. How
He
can he
didn't
not?
take
I want more Bo rather than more Baines. I want more Bo.
Well,
I mean,
I got a good report on both from Wanamaker. Wanamaker said he's
oh,
awesome.
Bo looks incredible. And
Wanamaker
if you watch
there's not a guy he's seen on the other end of his alley oops better than Bo.
I mean, we do.
I don't think he's going to play.
We
I
do
think he's
need.
buried.
I mean, there's a certain hole in our team where it's not that big of a deal when we're winning games, when we're playing well, but we don't have a vertical threat on either ends of the floor, especially in terms of being able to defend lobs. Most of the time, it's Al being able to time it correctly, or Marcus Smart being able to edge out the defender with the offensive player with his size. But we need a vertical threat that can intercept lobs. Utah was making a living out of lobbing it to
making a living is not the word.
lobbing it over
First
the top
it was
to Al,
Rudy Gobert, and then it was Favors,
Right.
and there was so many of them that
Yes.
it was disgusting.
You have to think
that's why you take guys out of
you
games.
have to think that if Bo was in there, those would have happened a lot less
I
frequently.
don't know. I don't think he reacts good enough, Shay.
I think that is a.
You think he would have been with the guy rolling the basket, and
think
he wouldn't have taken a step like Horford was taking. And
you saying he doesn't react fast enough could not be more opposite from the truth, because I think
Well, that's not true.
I think that's one of his
agree with
best
that.
skills. His reaction time is impeccable.
I'm talking about a high pick and roll.
Yes.
I don't think he hasn't shown me that he responds to a high pick and roll good enough to stop what was going on there.
I think he can. I think
Horford should have been able to stop it.
No, because Horford isn't a vertical
guess.
athlete who isn't explosive, and he can't defend at the rim. Yes, Horford is one of the highest IQ defenders in the league, but that comes to a fault sometimes when a team is able to break it down based off of having a guy who has a 7'7" wingspan and being able to throw it over the top. No matter how smart Horford is, his athleticism can only get him so far in that situation.
Is it proven in today's game that switching every single pick and roll is the right thing to do? Is that just gospel now? Because it's
not proven, but people do it.
I don't do it. The Celtics that's their mantra.
Yeah.
They've got Horford switching out on point guards all the time. They got Aaron Baines switching on point. They switch every single screen.
Yeah, it's the system.
And I'm saying, well, maybe they shouldn't be switching every single screen.
Yeah, well, that's not something they're going to change.
No, probably not.
I have no issues with Horford's perimeter defense.
No,
Baines
he's great.
is a little slow-footed.
Well, somebody wasn't covering that alley-oop, and they were bigs that were getting into the hole.
If you go and watch, I don't recommend watching the complete Maine Red Claw games, but if you go and watch Maine Red Claw highlights, you'll begin to see how Bo slots in.
They had a Maine
with
Red
the
Claw
needs
game
that
on
we
the other
have.
night. I didn't watch it.
He has stretches on defense where he is everywhere at once, where he is defending all 5 players on the other team, and he is shutting down every single option they have because of his speed, his agility, his surprisingly strong amount of awareness, and his obviously elite level shot blocking ability. He's closing out on a shooter on the right wing, and then he's blocking a weak side dunk attempt on the left side of the court. He is remarkable, and he needs to play. Period. Not more, because he's not playing.
That's why you don't want Baines to get minutes.
No, because
you want Bo to get them.
No,
I just don't know if the answer to
ready.
a team that can't put together 48 quality minutes is to put in a guy with
and I think
less
that's why,
than 5 minutes.
I think
of
that's
NBA
why he's not
experience.
played yet. I think it's because we haven't found our rhythm, and I
Another
think in
thing
this
the
stretch
whole
coming up, I
dynamic
think we're going to see more of
is
it.
the lack of minutes for Shemi Ojale and Yabu. I mean, last year they were getting minutes. They add energy when they're on the floor. That they compete. They're physical.
So
they're strong.
It's not the time
Yeah.
to pull them in.
What I'm saying is
We're
they
barely
added
beating
something to that dynamic last year.
Energy.
Last year they added something to that dynamic. Taking them out of it, they're not getting. That's a piece that's missing
I
on that
don't
team.
think that Yabu deserves any minutes. I do think that Semi should be playing more
Well,
because
I
Semi
think Yabu's improved. I think
Semi's a
Yabu's a
versatile
key
player that
But Shemi can play.
Brad does go to Semi if
little bit.
if the game
If the game's going
yields,
bad.
if the game yields it and it's struggling. We see him go to Semi started because we know Semi defends against Giannis well, and we saw Brad go to semi in certain fourth quarters
they're
because he
buried.
didn't look happening. What did you guys think about Brad pulling the starters, sans Kyrie, with 8 minutes left in the Utah game when we were only down 10 points?
It was their only shot. It was
the
their
only
only
shot.
shot. With what was going on in that game, that game was far gone. He needed as much energy on the floor. He kept Kyrie on there. I'm a little worried about Kyrie having to do as much as he's doing right now. But you were at this game. I would have to say while we're talking about it, I saw two things that Kyrie did that I've never seen another player do in my life. I mean, that guy is he's getting
was
right there.
absolutely incredible.
That between the legs, to his left hand, behind his back, with all on one bounce, is something I've never seen. The boop, boop, going this way. That was amazing. And then that pitter-pat he's got, that's a change of pace, where the dribble's about that far off the ground, where he's down here and it's boop, boop, where he's going like that with a dribble. Those are amazing
He was in
moves.
such a flow, and whether it was transition game or
So you keep him in.
step back threes or driving to the hoop, he was just in control, and you could tell it was almost like a Kawhi versus KI showdown.
Both looked great.
And the Celtics had a 13-point lead in the second quarter, late in the second quarter, and they pulled him out. And Brendan and I were like, "When are they bringing him back in?" 3 minutes later, we were like, "They've lost this flow," because he was finding people on transition too. Because obviously people are collapsing on him. I mean, he's in the process of scoring a 45-point game, 48-point game, but he was finding people. They really need him out there as much as possible.
You know who he
right
reminds
now.
me of? And I'm not trying to think all the time. Earl Pearl Monroe. Did you watch Earl Pearl Monroe at
I've
all?
watched Earl.
That jitter, bang, bang, where you're going in three directions at once. I kind of thought I see a lot of that.
Yeah,
in
when
Kyrie.
Shea was a kid. in the
Kyrie's better
90s,
than him.
Right?
Oh, Kyrie's better than, but he's a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah, sure.
Earl Pearl Monroe is a great player. But that wiggle, that shake and bake that
I think
he had,
sometimes we forget how good Kyrie is
I
until
think
we
so.
see performances like that, and we're like,
And
oh
we're
yeah.
I think
glad
that
to
was
have
his
him.
best.
So,
This is
so
why I
we've
say
got
top
that player.
10.
They've got LeBron. They've got Curry. We've got Kyrie. We know that.
Yeah.
We got to maximize him. And I think Hayward coming into his own, and I'm hoping he will. Although one thing that was pretty eye-opening to me was when they played Utah in Utah, and they showed films of Hayward and his prime. Man, there was a different player there.
He was just more explosive.
I know. Yeah, he was trimmer. He was quicker. And you're saying, oh my God. But since
think,
then,
like-
I've seen him play better. I think he needs
Right
to
now,
step
I
up.
just think Kyrie and Marcus Smart are the only two people that are really making other players better.
I agree with that.
And that's a problem. I think we want more players
Yeah, so
in order for us to be
it's-
a
it's-
real
it's
quality
trusting the system.
team.
It's trusting the
And
system.
Terry's another one that really needs to be traded because there's not room for Terry Rozier on that team.
Kyrie has been incredible.
opposed to that.
Kyrie's been incredible. We're praying that his health continues, and we're praying
Yes.
that his increased defensive effort and defensive ability. He's among league leaders in deflections.
He's got to watch it a little
he's
bit, though.
among
'cause
league leaders in
what he's
steals per
doing is
game.
he's just raking at the ball like crazy, and which is great. He's turning so much off raking at the ball, but he got 5 fouls doing that, and some of them. And I love him.
Well,
being
that hurt
aggressive.
us. That hurt us in the most recent Utah game.
he's-
His foul trouble. But I do think that what you're saying about Gordon Hayward being the second option.
It'll help Kyrie
The
a
way
lot.
I see that is, I think he should have the second highest usage on the team, but I think he needs to be fourth-ish in points per game on the team. I think that I need him to be initiating offense.
That's
The
not his
second
game.
most, yes, it is. The second most on the
But
team
points
behind
is his
Kyrie.
game. Points is his game, too.
I think he. I mean, we see Brad, and
We
we
should get
hear
18 a
Brad.
game from
We
him.
hear Brad talking about him being a jack of all trades, and that's
That's
exactly
because
what he
that's
is.
all he offers right now.
No, that's because that's what he can
He
be at his
can
ceiling.
do, but Stevens is
think-
sugarcoating what he can't do
I
right
think
now.
I think right now you're thinking about this.
He's missing shots like crazy,
You're thinking
Shea.
about him in his prime in Utah, where
Well, his prime is only 2 years
where
ago.
he- where-
It's pre-injury.
where he was depended on to be a scorer. Right now, he needs to be a pick and roll ball handler that is looking for teammates. I think when you say he should be looking to shoot more than looking pass, I think maybe a little bit, but I kind of like the balance that he has right now.
Only the fundamental of looking shot and thinking. You can do both,
Yeah.
but he should be looking shot, because if you're not looking shot, you can't take it. He should be looking shot. I love the passing. I love the penetration. He's a great playmaker, but I think that everybody's just sugarcoating his lack of offense right now, and he's averaging 10 points a game.
Well, right now,
he should be averaging 18 a game.
Yes,
I want to see 18 a
yes,
game.
I
from
agree.
him.
Right now, where his offense is there is in the the
I'm saying
playmaking
I'm
mold,
saying-
and you say Kyrie and Smart are really the only people that are getting other people involved. I agree,
Hayward
and we're
does too.
beginning to see Hayward be able to get into that as well.
definitely is.
It's definitely not going to be Tatum and
No,
Brown.
no,
they're not passers.
I mean, although I will say Jalen, just in terms of a skill aspect, his passing has improved dramatically. It's
has.
just he doesn't know
But there was
when
a long way
he
to
doesn't
go.
know when to
He's
deploy.
coming,
it.
he's
Right.
coming
Or he
from down
chooses
here.
not
He
to.
has
Yeah.
improved.
I'm optimistic. I'm very optimistic.
I am
This
too.
next schedule, we got Charlotte tonight.
Yeah.
Then we got New York,
Nick,
Atlanta,
Nick,
Dallas,
yeah.
Cleveland, New York,
Oh my
Chicago,
God.
Washington,
I
Atlanta,
hope we're not going to say
Detroit,
they're hot because they beat
Phoenix,
those
Charlotte.
teams.
The only tough teams we have are the
We got
Pelicans,
Pelicans.
Minnesota, and Philly. And the next 15 games,
and really,
we have 3
that's
hard
the thing.
games.
And really, we don't have a test until December the 21st when we get the Bucks, the Hornets, and Philly in a short period of time from the 21st to the 25th. That's the next test.
I think we should
Did you
sort it
see
out.
Jay Crowder when Daniel Tice was on the free throw line? He goes Slim Shady.
I think Crowder's got a point.
Looks
And,
like
I,
him.
and I, I'm not really a Crowder fan right now, and he's on my list of bad guys, so to speak. And he really shouldn't be because he didn't ask out. He got traded on his own. But some of his antics and stuff. But his point is that what they had that's missing now, and I always put it in terms of firing the gun, where there's a bunch of guys playing with the trigger right now, but there's a bunch of guys that are not squeezing and going. And he said they had it when they had Crowder and Isaiah and Bradley and Smart. That's a lot removed from that team in terms of mentality and approach to that type of play that we're talking about with Smart.
Well, the actual quote was, obviously they have a lot of offensive players that can really score the ball, but you have to have guys that do their dirty work. Marcus Smart can't do it all by himself.
And they had
You got to have guys who will dive on the floor, fight through screens.
Avery Bradley,
and play
Crowder,
defense.
and Isaiah was one of those guys. Isaiah was
that goes
too.
full circle to what Brad's talking about.
wasn't even throwing shade, it was
what-
true.
Yeah,
It is.
to what Kyrie's talking about with toughness and leadership and leading by example.
who are those
with-
players?
With full effort across. It needs to be everyone. Jalen needs.
Yeah, I see
Jalen-
Morris as one of those
Gordon-
players. I see Baines as one of
Gordon
those
is
players.
scrapping out there.
Yeah, he's trying.
Yes, I do. I see
The
Hayward.
one difference between what we did have before is there was a clear tier system in place in terms of a pecking order with the team formerly, and
The pecking order has changed
It
on
was
that team.
Isaiah, and right now I think that too many people are thinking it needs to be fixed. That there needs to be a pecking order, and the players need to fall into place in their pecking order. I don't think that's true. I think it's clear that Kyrie's on the top, and then I think it should be just the equal opportunity offense that we have. We just need to trust the system.
But
Right
the
now, we're
point
not
is,
trusting
the point
system.
is
I mean,
that
if
whether you
players
like
were-
the pecking order or not, it has changed. And the pecking order last year, Rozier was different, Tatum was different, and Brown was different in the pecking order. and that is, at least mentally and morale-wise, that's got something. There's something going on with that.
I don't.
And I understand what you're saying. It's not in the
think
end
it's-
with Brad Stevens and Danny. It's not really that important, but it is a fact
I
that
go-
the pecking order has changed.
I go back to I don't think that
What
much.
was the pecking order last year, day one?
I don't think
day
much.
one was
I
the
don't.
pecking
I
order.
don't think much has changed. I just think that players
It
are
has changed.
shooting poorly, and then they aren't trusting the system when they shoot poorly, and then everything is a
that-
snowball
that's
effect
what Brad's
after
saying.
that.
That's what
I-
Brad's
I-
saying.
I-
They're stopping their defensive effort based on what's happening offensively.
I think that we
But
should-
He
we can expect
insinuated
it
Brad
much
in-
better coming
in the
up.
post game with a little smirk on his face. If you didn't see the post game last time, Brad did insinuate that there's going to be a lineup change. He did insinuate that, and I don't know whether there will be or not.
God
But it'll be something
willing.
to look at.
Yeah, I don't really care if they change the lineup or not.
He's looking to add something to the team that's not there. And I think he's very.
Bo, he's talking about Bo. What would you do? What would you
Like
do?
I'm on other guys.
What would you do if they started Bo?
I would freak out.
I think that
I would text you.
Talk about morale.
Yeah, let's do some trivia. Big three.
Big three. All right, first to get 2 out of 3 is the winner. All right, of the 19 players who have attempted 100 or more three-pointers this season, 6 have three-point percentages of 43% or higher. Okay. The first to name 2 wins the round.
Do we? Joe Harris.
No,
He hasn't done
but that's a
100.
good guess.
He hasn't taken 100.
He's taken 100, but I think he's at like 40%.
Who? Joe Harris is at 50%.
Oh, maybe he hasn't taken 100 then.
He probably hasn't taken 100.
It's Steph.
Steph Curry, number 1, 49%. He's got 62 of 126.
Wow. Kevin Durant.
No.
Wow.
JJ Redick.
Kevin Durant's actually missed a lot of contested threes since
Okay.
Steph went down.
You
JJ
get it?
Redick's a good guess, but no.
He's attempted over 100, that's for sure.
James Harden.
No.
Wow. Guys are throwing threes up
based
out
off of
there.
attempts.
One's a tall
Kemba.
guy.
Kemba.
No.
I know the answer.
One's a tall guy.
Yeah, Splash Mountain.
Well, you know who it is?
I think so.
The tall guy?
And
Mountain,
tall guy's teammate is another one of them.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
actually only 4, not 6.
Two guys on the same team. Number 43. I don't haven't got it.
Brooke Lopez.
Yes.
Brooke Lopez.
Brooke Lopez is shooting 43%. He's made 45 threes out of
Oh.
106.
Splash Mountain.
Jeez.
And his
That's his nickname.
and his teammate, one of my favorite guys,
Oh, Middleton.
Chris Middleton.
Yeah.
The other guy was Josh Richardson, which probably nobody would have guessed.
43%
Yeah,
for Richardson.
Josh Richardson actually 45%.
That's not going to say the same.
No, absolutely not. Let's see. 3 players have 40 or more blocks this season, and Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis, and Rudy Gobert are not their names.
How many blocks?
40 or more.
You can go
Name
first.
these big three able-bodied ball swatters.
Good terminology.
Jordan.
DeAndre Jordan.
No,
doesn't have
DeAndre
blocks.
Jordan is not
Trying to think of
even.
who it is.
Hassan
Oh, no, I got it. Whiteside.
That was my guess.
Oh, the other guess.
You can't
I was
steal a
trying to
guess.
click in my head. I'm thinking of the stats, and I'm
Going
going,
for
who's
the
up there?
2 for 1. I
You
got to blow the
another guess?
whistle
Go
on
ahead.
that one.
Another guess.
Oh, yeah, but that was the one I was thinking about.
Whiteside has 47 blocks.
40.
Number 2 and number 3 have 41 and 40.
Did one of them just have 9 blocks in a game?
It was, yeah, I figured who that was, too.
I don't know if he's played enough minutes.
Breathing problems.
You got a guess?
No.
I don't know. Is Mitch? Has he played enough?
No.
No, he hasn't played enough. He had 9 shots. He had 9 blocks the other day. Mitchell Robinson.
That's right.
This
Yeah,
guy's
but he
got.
also scores no
this
points.
guy's got
sometimes.
asthma.
Do you know
Oh,
who
God.
has asthma? I know.
No, go ahead. I don't
JaVale.
have-
JaVale McGee
Oh,
has
yeah,
41.
well, I know
and
he
Miles
has
Turner has 40.
He's been
Miles
terrible.
Turner, I don't even consider him a real shot blocker.
been
He's
good
a great
defensively.
shot blocker, but he's been
Really?
terrible. at
I like
everything else.
DeMontis Sabonis behind him.
Yes.
All right, here. Kyrie Irving in 2011, Elton Brand in 1999, and Art Heyman in 1963
don't know
are
who
the
that is.
only Duke players
I love Art Heyman.
ever to be drafted first overall in the NBA draft.
Okay.
A fact that is bound to change sooner than later.
Yes, I would agree.
Name 3 of the 5 Duke players drafted second overall in the NBA draft.
Second overall Duke player. I don't even know.
3 of them were in the last 5 years.
Really? How about Christian Laettner?
No, he was number 3. So was Grant Hill.
Second overall.
Did we say, you got it, your turn.
Go for it.
I can't think of anything. You
Did
shout
we
it
say
out.
Kyrie was one of the ones?
He's one.
Kyrie is
He's
one of the
number
ones.
Okay.
Think recent.
I can't.
2018, 2016,
Oh.
2014.
Can't.
Bagley?
Marvin Bagley, 2018. 2016 is a Laker.
Ingram.
Oh, yeah.
Brandon Ingram, and then Jabari Parker in 2014.
Oh, good names.
One more recent one, LeBron James just scored 50 points.
Wow.
It's the third team that he's scored 50 points
Wow.
for. Do you guys know who the other 4 guys who have scored 50 points for
With
3 different teams are? It's pretty crazy.
Wilt.
Wilt Chamberlain is one of them.
50 points
Oh,
for 3 teams.
Philadelphia, LA, and what's his other team?
I think
Technically,
technically they
Philadelphia
consider
changed.
a change of
They went
franchise.
from the Warriors
or
to the-
a change of, yeah.
I guess. Okay.
Technically, the other 3 were Moses Malone, Bernard King, and Jamal Crawford. Jamal Crawford put up
Crawford of all
50
people.
for
I
3 different
I
teams.
think I would have guessed
Oh,
Jamal
yeah.
Crawford.
Pretty
I wouldn't have guessed
wild.
the other 2 guys.
But anyway,
We only got a couple left on there.
back to the wheel.
Hefty spin. I doubt you get a new one.
Yes.
All right, so the Golden
another-
State Warriors are sliding
We go to
recently.
they're not sliding.
They're, they're sliding
They're not
because
sliding.
of the lack of health from Stephen Curry.
3 losses in a row.
They're-
Lost 4 out of 5.
They are 2-5 in the last 7 games in that stretch. That doesn't include Stephen Curry,
Right.
including losses to San Antonio, Dallas,
But that
Houston,
says it all.
which is a blowout. Clippers, Milwaukee. Oh, their only wins are very haphazard wins against Atlanta and Brooklyn. It's something crazy like their record in the Steve Kerr era when Steph Curry plays, I believe, is 250-47, and their record when Steph Curry doesn't play is like 21-24.
So I was watching.
So that tells the whole
I was
story.
listening to Chris Broussard today. How do you like him? I like him a little
He's
bit.
very average.
Very average, okay. But I like what he said. And what he said was that Steph Curry is a short Tim Duncan in terms of what he brings to the team in terms of coach and solidity and all that stuff, all that putting it together. And when he's on
He's
the
not the
floor,
first person to say that.
Yeah, but
well, it's certainly being played out right in front of our eyes right now. And I think once again we're seeing, and we can talk about the whole KD and Draymond thing if we want to. I wouldn't mind talking about that. But I was thinking we're seeing KD Durant again turn into Oklahoma City Durant.
Yeah.
And that's happened last year, and it was bad, and he didn't pull out of it. He does not play the Golden State Warrior game, and maybe that's why he wants to get out of town, is that he wants to play his game and not the Golden State Warrior game. But I watched that game last night, and I know Durant had a decent game statistically, but
They look horrible.
that was not Golden State. That was
I
not Golden
think
State
he
ball.
missed 8 contested 3-pointers in that game.
Yeah, he missed a lot of them
He
early.
shouldn't be taking the 8th. If
And
if
he's doing
7
it all
before that
off the
haven't
dribble,
worked.
and
San Antonio knows how to play defense.
I think
on it.
that Kevin Durant is obviously one of the 5 best
He
players
is.
in the league,
He-
obviously.
he is.
But it's just when you need
he's
to,
like Kyrie at 7 foot almost.
you need
in
to
terms of-
understand he can be obviously maximized in a certain way, and he can be the antithesis of your offense, and you would still be successful because of how good he is. And I think that the
Good point.
Warriors' success is so contingent on the health of Stephen Curry
It is.
that he is just a cherry on top because of what he can do is kind of irrelevant to whether or not he fits into that system, which he clearly doesn't. And I think that's not a problem
Right.
because of the talent that they have on hand. But what you does just become so more and more prevalently obvious is when Steph isn't there, it's obviously there's a distance and there's a block there between what the Warriors system should be and has been coached into the players to be.
And that's the Tim Duncan
But with
factor.
with Durant at the helm, it completely changes. The fabric of the offense entirely changes. Klay Thompson all of a sudden shifts, and he's taking a lot of mid-range contested shots. He's trying to overcompensate, and he's creating too much off the dribble. And
it's a result of how Durant's playing.
And it's problematic. And obviously everything's fine if Steph's healthy. It's just the only thing is
He should be healthy.
Steph is always hurt. He's hurt a lot.
It
He's hurt a lot.
is just a shame that we don't see him as the MVP that he clearly is until he's not out there.
Right.
You know,
And,
one thing
and
that puzzles-
even, he was supposed to get treatment, and he wasn't even supposed to travel on this away trip, this road trip. But he actually traveled with them because he also brings a level of cohesion to that team as well.
Oh, him being
Of
just on the bench
chemistry.
helps.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he was shooting the breeze, making people laugh. And I don't think if not for him traveling with them, I think the tension would have still
They
been
need
pretty
him
bad.
there, even if he's just a mediator.
What puzzles me is that KD's the reigning MVP of the championship series 2 years in a row, and that last year I never saw Kevin Durant play better than when down the stretch in the finals with everybody on that team, and he was playing Golden State ball. Why wasn't that enjoyable enough for him? Why didn't he plug into that? Why isn't that how he wants
So
to
I
play?
think what he
That
was
beautiful.
upset about in the game that they got pushed into overtime and the
Clipper game.
Yeah.
Where the whole blowout
I think the problem was Kevin Durant was the only guy that was playing effective minutes in that second half, and he got them back in that game, and then they had a chance to win the game, and Draymond put his head down and dribbled into a field of people and turned the ball over.
You're not going to get that
So
from me.
why not pass the ball to the
Okay,
guy who's
I'll
gotten
tell
you
why.
back
I'll
in the
tell you
game?
why. And I had a player that did this, used to do this to me, and it was way back in high school. And I had one of my teammates chase him into the locker room and pin him against the locker at halftime, and had to be taken off the guy because that sucks. And so you're coming down the court. That's you don't do that to your teammate.
But you also
Jimmy,
don't dribble
Jimmy,
into a
Jimmy,
field of
and
people.
listen, the other thing he didn't do is he didn't run. And all Draymond did is rebound and push. Now, why didn't he run? If he ran with him, he hung back and decided it was going to be my three.
what-
He didn't trust Draymond to make a decision, and Draymond is a good decision maker.
No. Well,
he
so,
is.
so the thing is, they were both right and they were both wrong.
No,
obviously,
Durant was much more. I know
Durant-
an emotional player, but Durant should never have showed up as a player, especially when things went wrong. He never should have showed up as a player. He's such a super sensitive wimp. Is
Yeah,
what
absolutely,
Durant
absolutely.
is.
He 100%
And
is.
he's taken advantage of because of that. Everybody
Absolutely.
does
But you
it.
can't 100% back Draymond.
I'm not-
when
right.
Draymond is saying leave, calling him a female dog multiple
This is after the
times,
fact.
and saying
This is
we can
a-
win without you.
And I understand, but it's also, I think it's not really Draymond and KD. I think part of this is how I see the game. Definitely how, me and Shea probably talked the game thousands of hours at this point. And Sloan, I'm not quite sure where you come from. We haven't talked really one-on-one basketball a lot, but we see the game a little different. And I see a guy with a tie game that grabs that and pushes that straight down the middle of the court, looking with his head up as somebody that should be supported by his teammate. And just because he doesn't receive the ball doesn't mean he's not supported.
Yes.
It's a tie game. We are going to overtime. But man, you don't stay at him after it happens. And say, the ball. I wanted the ball.
I agree with you. I think in that,
you don't do that to a teammate.
I think in that aspect, when Draymond,
You get chased in the locker room, pinned against the locker.
when
if you do that to your
Draymond chose to get the rebound and go, at that point, Durant needed to
He
follow
should've
him.
ran.
Durant should have ran.
should've ran.
He should have followed him, and maybe he would have got the
Tie
ball,
game.
and maybe he would have hit the shot anyway. That's what he should have done. But what should have happened in the first place is Draymond should have passed him the ball in the first place. Durant
because
shouldn't have
why
got the
should
ball
he be looking
because
in
that's
back at him to pass the ball and back of him?
Because
it's a tie game, and a tie game does make a difference because
Yes.
a tie game.
But there's 6 seconds left. He's not surrounded by people where he can make a decision. And the only person where right then, if he
I
blew
trust
up the
Draymond's
court,
decisions.
is
A lot of
Klay
people trust
Thompson. That was the
Draymond's
only
decisions.
person that he would have bailed him out in that situation because another underlying issue with this team is they have one of the worst depth and benches in the league. They're terrible. They're awful. Outside of that top 4, they're a really, really miserable team.
They still got to go Livingston and
Hey, don't do Jonas Jerebko like that.
Well, but he's playing
Jerebko's pretty
terrible.
decent.
So the point is that I think that Durant should have had the ball in the last second because
But he could've ran.
their best option
He
was
might have
him
got the
taking
ball
a
if he
pull-up
ran.
three. Yes, he might have, but he didn't because he knew that he should have got the ball immediately. And Draymond
No,
is not a good ball
no.
handler in the fast break.
6 seconds
and he
left.
And him missing,
Draymond's a playmaker.
him messing up was not surprising to me. What happened wasn't surprising to
But
me.
you don't disown him or
No,
show
you
your
don't.
lack of trust
Yes,
in a
exactly.
player that you
And
need to
that's-
trust.
that's where there's a clear
Draymond has
disparity.
earned the trust of his teammates.
Yes, he absolutely has, and that's where there's a clear disparity, and that's where
Well,
there's a clear.
that's why
KD bailed
KD's
on that.
definitely leaving after this season.
I think-
And I think it's
And I don't think you're going to
definitely.
blame it on Draymond
I
either.
think
Put it in
KD,
concrete
I think KD
now.
is definitely leaving unless they trade Draymond. That's the only way KD stays is if they trade Draymond. I think that's the only way.
I
he
don't
stays.
think so.
They're not going.
I think it's irrelevant. I think KD is to make up his own mind.
Big spin, big spin, big spin.
Big spin.
All right, let's talk about the NCAA
Okay, good. Next one.
players you've been watching and your top 5 picks in the draft overall, just from what you've seen. The more and more NCAA basketball that I watch, the more clear that my thought process coming into the year is becoming verified. The 3 Duke guys are truly remarkable, and Zion and RJ and Reddish, even if here and there, one with not including Zion, have had more quiet games, you can say. I think it's very, very obvious that these are the 3 best guys. And then after that, I thought that there were certain players that had the potential to jump into that, and I thought that it could have been Nasir Little. But Roy Williams isn't trusting him, and that makes me nervous. He's not even starting. And when he is on the court, he looks out of sorts, and he doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. So that made me nervous. And then I'm looking around, and there's players that excite me, and I enjoy watching. But there's so many holes in every other player that I see that I think it's so obvious those 3 guys, and then I see a huge drop off to the next guy.
I see a couple players, and I've been watching a lot of college basketball, and I like seeing them in person and I'm not sure Cam Reddish is the third.
I think he's clearly there.
I'll give you this. I've watched this guy play 3 games now.
I've never seen this name.
Okay, Izzy Bradidis.
Okay.
From Michigan.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
The kid can play. And he's 20 years old. He's a Canadian.
This is like the new Mo Wagner. This is new Mo.
He's 6'7", so he's different than that. But man, he can really play. Check this guy out. He's physically ready. He's got everything. He spins tight and quick. He takes it full court on the fast break. He shoots the outside shot. He rebounds, and he's just this goofy good of a character. He's got this flowing, crazy hair. He's like Aaron Baines without the ponytail, with his hair flowing all over the place. He's got tats. He's got a great personality. Keep your eye on him.
I like him.
Iggy Bradidis.
I don't think he's going to be a top 10 pick.
He's quite a player.
I
I think he's definitely going to be a top 10 pick. And then I'll give you my other guy. I watched Romeo Lanford play yesterday, and I see a lot of Mitchell in him because I think he's got a lot, and he's 6'6".
Yep.
So I think he's a legitimate guy as far as a top tier guy. And the other one is going to be my guy, and obviously I got some skin in the game with him. But I think DeAndre Hunt is the real thing. I really do. I think he's a redshirt sophomore, so he's been there for 3 years. He's got the Virginia's defense. He's a defender. He reminds me, and this is bad because he's just got elements of it. He reminds me of Kawhi in terms of that size player with that wingspan and that physical strength playing defense. He can really play. And then he's got all the tools on offense too. So I think I placed those guys a little bit ahead of Cam Reddish just because Reddish's third fiddle. It's tough to see him inside that mix there. And I'm not sure he's not a stationary shooter.
All right, now that you listed 8 people, I'll say Keldon Johnson from Kentucky.
Yeah.
He's
He's getting some
similar
stuff.
size as, what's his name?
Is he 6'7"?
He's 6'6", similar size as Romeo Langford, but he was the only one that was playing well against Duke in that season opening loss. And he's putting up 17 points a game and grabbing about 7-8 rebounds. I think he plays bigger than he is, and he's got a really quick first step and pretty smooth stroke.
Watch Iggy.
So
Keep your eye on
I like
Iggy.
him.
I think that I think Zion is the number 1 player, right?
Yeah.
Zion's
Of course.
number 1.
Of course.
I
think we're sort of operating as that
You know who
being
his personality reminds me of, Sloan? Rafael Devers.
Okay.
He's like a savant. He's a savant that is just so freaking good that nothing really affects him because he's that good. That's the same way Devers is. It doesn't matter. He's never going to go into a slump because he's so freaking good that he's not going to be in a real slump. I think Zion's the same way. And he's also he's the best rebounder I've seen
So long.
in
And
so
so long.
long.
He's incredible.
That he's the number 1 pick just on his ability to rebound.
But
That elevation,
I think-
that strength, that power.
I think the
that
one-
burst
And
is-
people just get out of his
What
way.
a
I think
rebounder.
the one hole that people had when they were doing mocks before the season and why RJ was so commonly regarded as the number 1 player.
And RJ
And
is
I do
good.
think he
RJ is
could
awesome.
still be the number 1 pick. But the
You think
one
RJ
reason
will be the number one?
I think he could be. I think he could be.
Yeah.
I think right now you have to put Zion based on what we've seen. But I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the season if I'm saying RJ is the number 1 and Zion's the number 2. Whichever one you choose, you're perfectly happy.
I think the 6-7 is a problem.
I think
They
that
both could change the game of the NBA.
Right. What we've seen in terms of draft projection and draft evaluation with players is teams get scared away from players that can't shoot because it's so obvious that you need to be able to shoot in today's NBA unless you do literally 95% of all the other things at an elite level. And what we're seeing from Zion is he does 99% of the other things at an above elite level. And he is so
And
remarkable
what's
at
the
every
shooting
aspect.
percentage? He's like
and
he was
shooting-
at 80%.
He's shooting
I know that.
crazy because most of them are
I
dunks
know,
and layups.
but they
he-
are nice dunks.
Yes, he was shooting like 78% of the games. But I think he's just such a joy to watch.